Allah.
Okay. Here we go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري ويشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amen. We have been studying the supreme sign from the seventh ray. We are concentrating on the second chapter, which is about divine unity, about the divine unity and how we can be convinced that the source of existence of this universe can only be the one who is an absolute being. That divine unity means absoluteness of the creator. So we have been studying this, and now on the first subtitle, which forms the 33rd degree, whatever it is, to the truth of compassionateness, bestowal of provision. So we studied that until the paragraph which says now provision and sustenance is of two kinds. So inshallah, I would like Colin to read and make his own comment and start conversation, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. Now, provision and sustenance is of two kinds. The first is true and natural provision, that required for life. This is guaranteed by the sustainer. It is indeed so regular and well ordered that this natural provision stored in the body in the form of fat and other things is enough to ensure survival for at least 20 days, even if nothing is eaten. Those who apparently die of hunger before the 20 or 30 days are up, and before the provision stored up in their body is exhausted, die in reality not from a lack of provision, but from a disease arising from lack of caution and the disturbance of fixed habit. The second form of provision, metaphorical and artificial provision, arising due to addiction from habit, wastefulness, and misuse, but acquiring the appearance of necessity. This form is not guaranteed by the sustainer, but depends on his generosity. Sometimes he may give it, sometimes he may not give it. With respect to this second form of provision and sustenance, happy is he who regards his frugality a source of happiness and pleasure, contentment and illicit striving as a form of worship and active prayer for sustenance. He accepts God's bounty gratefully and appreciatively and passes his life in happy fashion. Wretched is he who, on account of prodigality, the source of wretchedness and loss, and greed, abandons licit striving, knocks at every door, passes his life in sloth, oppression, and wretchedness, and indeed puts his own life to death. In the same way that a stomach requires sustenance, so too the subtle capacities and senses of man, his heart, spirit, intelligence, eye, ear, and mouth also request their sustenance from the compassionate provider and gratefully receive it. To each of them, separately and in appropriate form, is presented such provision from the treasury of mercy as will rejoice them and give them pleasure. Indeed, the compassionate provider, in order to give to them provision in more generous measure, has created each of man's subtle capacities, eye and ear, heart, imagination, and intellect, in the form of a key to his treasury of mercy. For example, the eye is a key to the treasury containing such precious jewels as the fairness and beauty to be seen on the face of the universe, and the same holds true of all others mentioned. They all benefit through faith. To resume after our digression, the all-powerful and wise one who created this cosmos created also life as a comprehensive summary of the cosmos, and concentrated all of his purposes and the manifestations of his names therein. So too, within the realm of life, he made of he made of provision a comprehensive center of activity, and created within animate beings the taste for provision, thus causing animate beings to respond to his dominicality and love with a permanent and universal gratitude, thankfulness, and worship that is one of the significant purposes and instances of wisdom inherent in the creation of the universe. Should I stop there?
Yeah,
Or, I can carry on if you think I should.
Yeah, I think you can. I know that you can. But I think let's stop until the examples. Okay, shall we go back to the beginning of the text we read today? So just a review of at this first paragraph now, sustenance of two kinds. So this, the first one. What did you think of the first one really in a nutshell?
I don't like the word natural provision, but I understand. This is what is our qadar, definitely. This is what is provided for us by Allah without our asking. And it's everything that we require for our existence. You know, all of the bestowal and all of the bounties that we need in order to exist and in order to maintain our existence are given to us organically, if you wish, rather than naturally.
Yeah, fitri, original word is fitri.
Yeah, dispositionally maybe.
Yeah,
it's given to us as part of our dispositional portion, if you wish. What is decreed and determined for us dispositionally. So we receive that without asking for it, and it's guaranteed because it's given without request. Or if there is request, it's request which takes place through a kind of active prayer, such as hunger is a kind of active prayer. So what is decreed for us is given to us either without our requesting or as a kind of answer to a dispositional prayer or an active prayer, if you wish. That's what I understood from the first one.
Would you like to make more comments on the first one, or
no.
Now, the typical example I use for myself, for my own conviction, is this. For example, I went to the greengrocery shop, and in the store, I got something and brought it home. Practical example. And I started thinking about it. Or let's say somebody asked me, who is taking care of the provision of this house? I say, I will. The other one says, no, I am. Said, no, you are not. Why? I brought this one. Okay, let's think about it. You paid the money to the store owner for his retail labor, right? And you paid the money also. This money includes, because this store owner bought it from the wholesale, so wholesale owner also he gave a service on, he take his part, and then the wholesale owner got it from the farmer. Farmer also received his share from for the labor he spent and also material he used for it. Now, did you pay anything for the one who really gave existence to this grocery, whatever it is? Anyone? To the one who created it, gave existence to it, whatever the name you use. But he, the one who gave existence to this. Let's say you bought, I don't know, lettuce, a lettuce. So who got this lettuce? You paid for the retailer, wholesaler, maybe transporter, and also farmer. How about the one who gave existence to the lettuce? I say, no, nothing. So how do you say that I am feeding the family? The one who created the lettuce is feeding the family. That is guaranteed. That is guaranteed. To create the lettuce is guaranteed. To create the animals is guaranteed. And air is guaranteed. Light, or essential things for our sustenance. Air is essential. Every second I need it, guaranteed. Water, essential again, I need it. But for some things, for example, getting the lettuce, example, grocery from the store is my endeavor so that I will get it, because I decided to live in a city where there is no land available to grow the lettuce, because what am I going to do? Really not much. Just put the seed and take care of the season, the conditions of the season, that's it. But it is going to be created by the one who guarantees your provision. So that is what I understood from the first. But because of the habits that, no, now the season is something and I want more than this, or definitely in my house, this kind of restrictions or habits of eating more than, using more than what I need. Nowadays, you know that people are crazy about shopping. I don't know what is going on over there, but in the country I am living in, people are crazy looking for pleasure, satisfaction in shopping, online shopping. Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable things are in the market. Not necessarily, almost 99% of the things really available in the market are not necessary sustenances. So the requirement of life is guaranteed by the creator of the world and me and my needs. And he is guaranteeing how to provide what I need in order to sustain my life. I don't sustain, but in order to continue my life within the conditions of the universe, how it is created. It means within the conditions of put by the will of the one who created this universe. That is what I understood from the first paragraph. Would you like to add anything more?
Well, actually, what you've just described as there's a difference between needs and wants and habit. That's from the second paragraph, isn't it?
Yeah.
The metaphorical and artificial provision. I thought you were just concentrating on the first.
I know.
The first paragraph.
Going into the second paragraph. Now you can continue, inshallah.
No, I mean, I don't really have anything to add because you've covered it. This metaphorical and artificial provision is our conflation of need with want. We understand the wants as actual needs, and they become needs artificially through familiarity and we naturalize our eating and our consuming and our using. We acclimatize them to things which are unnatural, which are not necessary, which are over the top, which are prodigal, which are huge misuse and waste of resources. And we see these things really as a need. And the more money we have, the more our needs grow. They grow in response to the growth of income. That's why, however rich you are, you still have a lot of expenditure because your needs multiply. But these are artificial needs. These are not real needs. As you said, 99% of what is sold in these vast, I think in America you call them malls, right? They're like cathedrals, the size of them, they're huge, and you can buy anything. And 99% of them, as you said, is basically unnecessary and useless, pointless, and just for the satisfying of human whims, that's all.
So the solution the author offers us lies in prodigality. What does it mean, and what is the limit of it? Can we just share some ideas about it by everyone in the room, but especially the one who is reading and moderating the lesson?
Yeah. I don't know what's waste. Prodigality means being extravagant and wasteful.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone has his or her own criterion of what waste is. And I think waste is something that is to an extent subjective. What's waste for one person may really not be waste for someone else. I think you can have a rough kind of standard of what waste is. If it comes down to personal consumption of food, then according to height and weight, there should be some kind of standard to which one can adhere, and eating anything more than one needs then will constitute overeating. So although I don't know what these standards are, there must be sort of rough criteria of what constitutes waste.
I think somebody raised his hand. Suhail, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. To what Colin was saying, no one can objectively say, because there's no objectivity in terms of what is waste and what is frugality. To me, as he said, everybody has their own internal metric. And to me, the only way in which that sort of standard is upheld is one in which one sees whatever one has been given as coming from a provider or sustainer. So if one has a mindset or consciousness, I should say, that things are being given, when I'm eating the material things that I use, in light of that consciousness, then one sort of develops an awareness or understanding of what is necessary and what is truly needed and what's not. Because if one begins to see, or if I begin to see things just as one need after another, if they don't serve the purpose of taking me back to their provider or my provider, then that in a way becomes waste. And generally that happens, I would say, for many people, including myself, the more I'm given, whereas sort of restriction or frugality allows for greater consciousness, which is what I guess fasting is. So it's a sort of restriction, because in restriction or frugality, I guess, for relative intake, does one become aware of how one is being provided and who that provider is. And so to me, that's the only metric one like I can use is whatever I'm using, is that important enough to remind me of the sustainer, or am I just using it for the sake of using it, or eating it for the sake of eating it? And let's say, for example, most of us live in like Western society, for example, eating and drinking. By and large, it's essentially a consumptive practice. Like people just become consumers of food, and to me, that consumption has no sort of objective in reminding me of who my provider is or who my sustainer is, and in doing so, people become wasteful or excessive, and that becomes quite apparent in the rate of obesity and diseases associated with obesity. That to me is the response from the creator, the sustainer, provider, saying that as a whole, society is being excessive or wasteful and not frugal or not cognizant of the fact that things are being given. Because if I were cognizant that I've been given something, I'd be much more careful in how I utilize it. If I see it as a gift or a provision, I'd be very careful in how I make use of it. And it begins internally, and eventually, you see that if people have that same sort of mentality, you see that manifest on a collective or societal level. But no one in and of themselves can say this is waste and this is frugality. Even setting a metric that doesn't take into account the sustainer, to me, is wastefulness anyway, because there's no point in setting a metric if it doesn't pertain to the sustainer. So if I just say in a secular society, oh, people should not have more than this amount of food per day, we're going to ration food. If that has nothing to do with the provider, then I don't see a point of that either. So there has to be the provider, sustainer in the picture to come to some sort of personal understanding of what is waste and what is frugality.
I think that's a really important point. Anything that is not focused or oriented towards connection and communion with the source of existence is inherently and by default wasteful and pointless and without any kind of telos, there's no objective there really. So it's wasteful. I think that point, you made that very well.
Yeah, excellent, mashallah. So the text describes as if frugality is contentment and licit striving. What does it mean? As a form of worship and active prayer for sustenance. Worship and active prayer for sustenance. And then it will be possible, I think the text continues, if you do this, it means you strive in the form of worship and active prayer for your sustenance, then this person accepts God's bounty gratefully and appreciatively and passes his life in happy fashion. This is frugality. But if we expect that the object itself is going to satisfy me, then object may satisfy my need of stomach, but my humanity will really suffer or feel unsatisfied because whatever I eat and disappears. That's why if not in the model of thinking, there is no provider which is the absolute one who satisfies human side. While we are satisfying our stomach, it means bodily side. If we don't take notice of the source of existence of this provision, then I may temporarily fill in my stomach, but my humanity will keep suffering, and filling in my stomach ultimately turns out to be nothing because my body dies and rots away. But my expectations are going to be in suspension. Nothing I gained, I realized, which satisfy my expectations, human expectations. So the Suhail's and further on, Colin's comment made this point clear. So what do we understand from a form of worship, form of worship and active prayer for sustenance when we strive for it? I should highlight like this actually. So how does it take place? Practically, can I hear any practical example of it? No comment? Okay.
I guess a practical example would be, if I'm making some food, I'm making, let's say, chicken, or let's go with chicken, I guess. Being conscious or aware that, I am being sort of provided by the sustainer through that chicken, some sort of provision for my benefit, and being aware of that, showing gratefulness and appreciation for it, that is a sort of form of worship. And knowing that only he can provide me, and asking him to provide me sustenance through that chicken, because the chicken in and of itself doesn't do anything, doesn't exist on its own. And that, I receive some sort of benefit from eating that chicken. To me, that's a very practical example, just let's say in my day-to-day life. So that's what I would say.
So can I, while I'm listening to you, yes, this is a practical example, really good example. I thought of going back to the, just a minute, what's happening here? Okay, going back to the practical activity, for example, tilling the land and waiting for the result. While I am tilling the land, doing the cultivations, what's going on here? Why? Okay, I see. Now, doing the cultivations of the seed and really preparing the ground, etc., I must keep in my mind, understand that what am I going to expect now? Let's go to the example. It is a plant now. I am doing something in order to have lettuce. While I am tilling the land, I should ask the question, is the land going to create the letters? Can it make it? Can it make it? Any human being understands that the land, the earth cannot make the letters, because it's so simple for everyone to understand that, for example, I made a house with some bricks, for example, but bricks cannot make the house. House is a completely different phenomenon. So I should understand that it is, I am tilling the land, but I am aware using my consciousness, land, the earth cannot make the letters. It is just a stone in the wall of the building. Just it is going to be used. But by whom? Go ahead, you put water, you water the plant, still, or the seed, still you know that water cannot do it. Any human being can understand. These are just material to be used by some conscious being. Who is it? So in this consciousness, through this consciousness, if I continue my striving for my sustenance, what I am doing now, actively connecting to the creator of the letters by questioning who can be the maker of the letters. Let's go to the seed. Can the seed make it? I question as a human being, seed is going to make the letters. Seed is just something that I can smash in my within my two fingers. It doesn't have a will, it doesn't have power, anything, but it is written something in it, which the DNA cell. Nowadays they speak about it a lot. So, but it is written something. Yeah, it must be written something. For example, while I am making the house, there is a blueprint of the house, the plan of the house. Yes, the plan of the house is in my hand. It doesn't mean that it is going to build the house, but it is alive. But it doesn't mean that it is the source of the life. So we have to go through all these stages, which is summarized in the Quran. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha, la ilaha. Conclusion is illallah. It means soil cannot be, water cannot be, sunlight cannot be, seed cannot be, DNA cell cannot be, the written information there cannot be, because it doesn't have a conscience, it doesn't have a will. It has life, but it doesn't have a life. Life is given to his, because the matter cannot be the source of life. And also life by itself doesn't have consciousness. Going all this process of physical activities, I am practicing la ilaha, la ilaha, la ilaha. It means it brings the consciousness of the real agent who is going to provide the letters for me. So he's saying, if you want me to create a letters for you, you have to follow these stages. That is how you are going to develop and mature your understanding of La ilaha. This cannot be the creator. This is also cannot be the creator, etc. Continue this while you are doing this, as if you are really performing your ritualistic prayer. You are praying, actively praying. And this prayer is the form of worship. Only then we can accept and understand that the one who created the universe, the one who is the real creator. Now, there is no false creator. In my imagination, I may say something is creating it, but not real. That's why the creator of the letters will be in my agenda. I will be grateful and appreciative of this provider, this creator, and I will know that I will realize that in order to create a lattice, one agent who's expected to create a lattice must be able to give existence to something which does not exist before. So it means it must be not a part of created universe, because created universe is needy. Needy ones cannot give existence to anything. What do? They just entertain their created status. So this process is excellent, and I am really amazed that the author put the satisfaction of the human expectations, which is called human heart, human mind, as equal to frugality. Now, the real frugality is not in the amount. The real frugality in the way you believe, you understand, the way you are obtaining your provision. So if you say that the provision, my provision is provided by an absolute being, I wouldn't fall into, how do you call this word? I couldn't remember the word. Maybe, no, unsatisfied feelings. How is it called? Can somebody help me? Khurs in Arabic. Kharis. Can somebody help me?
I can't think of the word hers. Yeah, I know. I can't think of the English word.
So, did it come anything to your mind?
No, it's that kind of urgency of need, and you rush to get something. You really think you need it. Haris, but I can't think of the English word.
Ambitiously trying to collect the things and get it. For example, if someone understands that the creator of the letters is an absolute being, so he can create and provide everything. So this person is not going to fall into thirst or into ambition, let's say that, unsatisfied ambitions. But if someone doesn't recognize the creator as to be the absolute one, what he has to do, he has to imagine that he has to have many, many letters and piles up. You never know. Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next year, something may happen. That is the root cause of prodigality. That is what this way of dealing with the subject, not reducing it to the amount, physical amount. For example, you don't need 2 lettuces. You need only half a lettuce. Is enough for you. This is not the problem. The problem is killing or stopping this unsatisfied ambition, love of the property, love of the commodities themselves, rather than the love of the provider, creator of the commodities. That is a very interesting way of dealing with the subject. Now, before closing this page, now what this sentence says, I'm going to highlight it. Yeah. How about this one? Stomach requires sustenance, so to the subtle capacities and senses of man, his heart, spirit, intelligence, eye, ear, mouth, also request their sustenance from the same compassionate provider. It means absolute provider, God. So I think you may greed, yeah, Yeah, great. Great is the word. Thank you very much, H. Beza. Thank you. So, I mean, how do you say? Uncontrolled greed. Yep. Okay, Suhail Dar. Okay. Would you like me to hit on this?
Yeah, you can. It's just the different times it appears in the Quran.
You said Haris, yeah, okay. But yeah, I thought you were going to refer to a verse. All right, thank you. Okay, would you like to say anything with this, how do you say, way of approaching the subject? What stomach needs, what human subtleties it means, feelings, heart, spirit, intelligence, eye, etc. Are they provided? Are they readily accessible in this world? Stomach, the needs of stomach require some sort of striving, which we talked about it just a while ago. Now, how about the needs of heart? What does it require? Needs of spirit, intelligence, what do they require? Does it cost anything? What do you think? No comment? I mean, how do we expect it to
I think you muted yourself.
I'm waiting for you. That's why I muted myself.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess Colin had his hand up. I don't know if you wanted to go.
Yeah, I didn't know whether you'd seen my hand up actually was from a couple of paragraphs ago, but you've carried on, so it doesn't matter now.
I guess to answer your question, it's free. There's no cost there in reality.
That's why when we use the language, the life is hard, it means a reduction of life to just the needs of stomach, correct? That's what I feel. Or the needs of my stomach, my body. But in fact, the essential need of human beings are their satisfaction of their heart and spirit, intelligence, etc. And they are freely provided out there. Just what is needed, I want to investigate it. They are available. Just to use it, intelligence is already there. Feelings are already there. So my eye is here, mouth is here. Their sustenance are already ready there. Just I would just want it and I can get it. They cost me nothing. They to reflect on the universe. Universe is so huge, I can reflect on everything. They are always available in front of me. So when we say sustenance, of course, practically speaking, we think of food only, for food for stomach only. So food for stomach needs a little bit striving, and this striving must be done in the form of worship, realization, but the other needs, huge needs, are out there. They just want us to use our free will to concentrate on them. It means to choose to reflect on them. They are already there, provided it doesn't cost me anything. I don't have to do physically strive for it. But if I mean, the life is so developed in this world that really we ignore the needs of our stomach, our spirit, heart, intelligence, this human needs. We always see, and the market is full of means of provision of bodily needs. Spiritual satisfaction, the needs of spiritual satisfaction, we can only see in the hands of, or the message sent by God through the prophets. That is the only source that we can benefit from it, and it is free as well. So it doesn't cost anything. We don't have to have any physical striving. Okay, I hope I didn't really digress the subject. Let's go to the next page. Now, here is a very interesting phrase here. The eye is a key to the, excuse me. The eye is a key to the treasury of containing such precious jewels as the fairness and beauty to be seen on the face of the universe. And the same holds true for all the other mentioned. It means eye, ear, heart, imagination, intellect, etc. They are all in the same position and benefit then to resume after our digression, whatever. So what we see here are subtle capacities, eye, ear, heart, imagination, and intellect. They are like a key to the treasury of the merciful one, the key to the treasury of the merciful one. It means that's what I think we understand from what you understand from it. Just what does it mean really? Key to the to his treasure of mercy. He means compassionate one. It means the compassionate one, the key to the treasury of the compassionate and merciful one, or provider. How are we going to practice it? It seems to be simple, but just I wanted to hear your opinion about it. Maybe you may give an example. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be complicated one. And go, Suhail, go ahead.
Yeah, it's you know, each of man's like senses or faculties. He gives the example eye, ear, which the Quran frequently mentions those two, the heart, imagination, intellect. You know, employing them, you know, in our day-to-day life to see them as, or employing them to see or recognize the treasury of his mercy. That's using them as a key. And I guess that has to do with our consciousness of what, as you said, things are not necessarily simply for the bodily sustenance, but sustenance of our sort of spirit. And I guess a practical example would be eye, ear. Just so let's say it's the summertime and looking upon all the creatures or insects and plant life that's alive and in existence right now at this time, before the fall and then the winter, and to see how his through these senses, like for example the things I see, let's say the plants or the insects, and the things I hear, for example the birds, and the heart, or I guess how it makes me sort of feel. the sort of contentment, and using those experiences through those faculties and senses, and seeing how they point to his mercy, treasure of his mercy, how his mercy manifests in the existence of a tree, that it's given life after death of the winter and born again in the spring, and taking shape in the summer, how so many creatures come into being this time of year, so many trillions, on billions, if not trillions, of different creatures, um, and seeing how they all point to his mercy, treasury of his mercy, or how expansive it is. And he does it over and over and over again, year after year after year. Um, to me, at least, let's say this time of year, it's a practical uh, way to utilize those faculties as a key. But it requires a sort of consciousness. Whereas I could use these things simply for, you know, my immediate gratification, sensual gratification, and then move on without thinking much of what's actually happening.
Thank you, Suhail. So the conclusion, the text says these provisions can only be obtained through faith. It means really being conscious of what is going on in this world. So how about the following paragraph, this paragraph? So can anyone, yeah. So Colin, welcome back. Would you like to make a comment on the paragraph that you read, the all-powerful and the wise one, this highlighted paragraph? Oh. Would you like to make a comment on it? You may reread it. What do you think, Colin? And highlight what the point is important for you here.
He says he has to keep his mic on mute.
So, Colin, do you hear me?
He posted something in the comments. He says I have to keep my mic mute. Apologies.
So, okay. So anyone else would like to make a comment on this paragraph? Maybe you can reread it.
I can read it again. So he says, the all-powerful and wise one who created this cosmos created also life as a comprehensive summary of the cosmos, and concentrated all of his purposes and manifestations of his names therein. So, in this first sentence, he's sort of alluding to the fact that man, through life, is a summary or index of the entirety of the universe. And in a sense, I guess the question is, do I see myself as such? Because, I can, if I choose to, or if I'm aware of it, I can understand the universe. And not just understanding the universe as in, oh, how does this process work? Or how does the earth revolve around the sun? Or how does a plant grow? Or how does human life take shape? But really, as he's saying, really seeing the purpose of all the things' existence in the cosmos and the manifestation of his names. It's possible. And the human being can do that. And in a sense, then he is sort of the index of the entirety of the cosmos, because he can make sense of the purpose and the manifestation of his names upon the face of the universe. And then he goes on to say, so too within the realm of life, he made of provision a comprehensive center of activity and created within animate beings the taste for provision, thus causing animate beings to respond to his dominicality and love with a permanent and universal gratitude, thankfulness, and worship. That is one of the significant purposes and instances of wisdom inherent in the creation of the universe. So, using my life, as he says earlier in the previous paragraph, as a key, and sort of all those faculties and senses that I have, and provision is a sort of means to make use of those faculties and senses, because he says a provision as a comprehensive center of activity. And not just that, but my need for provision, or as he says, taste for provision. And that's the sort of the stepping stone or the means for me to respond, to get connected to him and respond back to him through universal gratitude, thankfulness, and worship. In other words, I can show gratitude, thanks, as a sort of representative of the entirety of the cosmos, because I see, not only mercy manifest across the expanse of the universe, from the smallest to the largest of the creatures, but then I also see mercy manifest in the provision that I'm provided, and that's driven by the need for provision. And really, on behalf of myself and thus the universe, I can show a gratitude and thankfulness to him for demonstrating that mercy. And as he says, that's a significant purpose, instance of wisdom inherent in the creation of the universe. So not just simply existing for existence sake, but for me to read it, so in a way, or appreciate it, and show thanks and gratitude on its behalf and present that to the maker. So that's what I took away from this paragraph.
Thank you. I think it summarizes what you said, and I can just, nothing needs to be added, but the significant purpose and instances of wisdom inherent in the creation of the universe is actually to perform a universal response to the provider of our provisions. Because what we see in each creation, we see the manifestations of his qualities manifested there. But the manifested qualities that we observe, we witness in each of the provision that we are benefiting from, demonstrates that these qualities must belong to the one who created the whole universe, because no one else can make anything in this world or create anything in this world if he or it cannot create the whole universe. So what the person who realizes that this object that I'm benefiting from, whatever it is, maybe a glass of water, maybe a plate of food, maybe entertaining the sunlight, whatever, all the provisions. Whoever has provided this one for me must be the one who created the whole universe. So what does it mean? For example, drinking one glass of water, if I have this in my mind, I am presenting a universal worship. It means I am saying, oh, the one, the creator of this glass of water, you are the one who created the whole universe. It means everything belongs to you. So as a conscious being, human being represents the manifestations of the names of God in his consciousness through his intelligence, and presents it back, responds back to the Creator, saying that although I am experiencing only a glass of water now, but I am realizing that you are the creator of everything, so everything is your work. It means this is the, as the last sentence says, the purpose, or the purpose, here it is, the significant purpose and purposes and instances of wisdom inherent in the creation of the universe is what? To respond to his dominicality, or if a person responds his manifestations of his the same qualities that I am experiencing in a glass of water everywhere in the universe at the same time. That is a universal gratitude, permanent and universal gratitude and thankfulness. This way of understanding the precious value of the provision is a means of practicing our gratitude, our thankfulness through every single event. Every single thing that I am receiving, I am benefiting from. That's a beautiful way of understanding how the provision really means for us. What does permanent mean here? Yeah, permanent and universal. It means, for example, when I say, that's what I understood, I don't know whether it is right or wrong. Can anybody else would share the response to what Adam asks in the chat box? And why is it permanent and universal? Universal. If I realize that's what I understood, let me share what I understood, and then you can make further comments. If I am wrong, correct me. Help me understand better, inshallah. If I understand that in order to be able to create even one molecule of water, one has to be infinite. It means what? The creator of the whole universe. Of course, universe is not static. It has the previous existence and the future existence. I imagine the previous and future existence. I remember the previous existence as far as I can. So I expand the dominion, if you like, ownership of the creator, this absolute creator, not only in space-wise, but also time-wise, as I understand it. So it becomes a permanent and universal worship, if you like, in my realization by experiencing a drop of provision of water. That is how the universe, or why the universe is created in such a way that every single unit of being in this world manifests the absolute qualities of it is creator. and witnesses to human consciousness. So I am expected to understand it. So Adam, does it make sense now? Anything for you? Any help at all? Or further questions, further concerns? Yeah, thank you. I think the time is up. We can, inshallah, start next week from, for example, yeah, and reading the examples will even more clarify the subject, inshallah. We are getting closer to the end of the 7th rays. Next week, maybe, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen bi hurmati sirri suratil Fatiha. Allah.